Follow the White Rabbit is a game that will teach you practical politics. Practical politics is called practical politics because it is non-voting, which makes it very, very practical. Conventional politics is, of course, rule-based politics, which is what you do at the voting booth. It's very, very rule-based and timeline-based, you know, every 4 years, every 2 years, so on and so forth. And full-spectrum practical politics is engaging and taking out an opponent or a system or a corporation, so on and so forth, by any means necessary under the rules or under the laws, but never breaking the rules or never breaking the laws. But to understand anything, we first have to teach you practical politics, which is non-voting politics. The first basics are the art of staying on point or using a talking point and being able to say it over and over again to make your point, not arguing, just making a point. But this is an introduction again to Follow the White Rabbit, and Follow the White Rabbit is a game that will teach you practical politics. I'm going to lead off this Follow the White Rabbit, and we're going to talk about a current scenario ongoing involving economics and how it relates to an argument you can make. And this is more specifically tailored to Anglosphere, specifically in the UK, and most definitely in America with the Republican Party especially, and these neocons. There is an argument that has been ongoing. I have never in my life heard it explained to me simply until the past maybe a few years or so. One of the wise men talked to me about it, and the wise man is a wise man because he's wise. But it's a banking argument, and it goes back a long, long ways. And it goes back to the two different types of banking philosophies. And these philosophies are right now coming to head. If you're alive on this planet, you realize there's something called American dollar. And the American dollar has been coming under a great deal of heat, verbally and whatnot. Anglo banking is being attacked right, left, and center. This attack has been led by the Russians. But let me go into the two types of central banks. And the two different philosophies behind it. And I won't get into some broad philosophical or conspiracy theories or anything like that. That's not what this is about. This is about a simple overlay so you can understand it and understand what these people are talking about and how you can use it to your advantage if you're ever trying to appeal to the elites or make yourself sound intelligent. And you should always know the current argument so you can bring it back to getting yourself in a position to lead, right? Especially if you're somewhere like the Republican Party. You can really hammer the neocons over a couple of these topics and really make them look stupid, which this is happening behind the closed doors. But there are two types of banking philosophies, as it was explained to me. And again, I'm not an economist, so I would expect some of the guys on Whitaker Online that are economists to go into a little bit more of this. But I'm going to give you a broad overview of the two philosophies, and they're very simple, as it was explained to me. I'm going to explain to you in a very simplified way, because I am not an economist, so I'm very, these are not things that I ever heard of, and I've had economics, I've had accounting, maybe you have too, and I guarantee you haven't heard these two things. There are two types of central banks. One is a state central bank. It's where the state owns the central bank, and a state itself directly issues currency. And it issues currency as a receipt for goods and services. Pretty simple. A state can loan money, or it can issue money. Yes, it can issue currency, what we will call currency. And currency, the big deal with the state doing it directly is the state does it debt-free. Yeah, a state can issue money debt-free. Pretty interesting, pretty simple. I assumed all central banks were state-owned and the state operated directly, but apparently there's another philosophy of central banking, and that's the central banking that we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to give you current examples of the two because the two are going head-to-head. There's another type of private central banking, and a private central bank is where a group owns a central bank. One of the challenges to this is that the private central bank is loaning the state money, and they're creating what we would call money, not currency, or money, and it simply is monetized debt. In other words, you know, a private central bank cannot issue true currency as a receipt for goods and services. It's loaning money. It cannot issue currency. It can only loan money. A bank can only loan money. That's one of the challenges here. In other words, the bank, a private central bank can never create the interest, only the principal. And so under this type of system, the argument goes that it's a monetized debt system, and the debt has to grow because of the compound nature of interest. Right now, in Anglosphere, you have a Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank, now growing up, I assumed the Federal Reserve Bank was part of the government. Well, the Federal Reserve Bank is no more federal than the Federal Express. It's different. It's a different philosophy of money. It comes back to it's a private central bank. What's special about the Federal Reserve Bank is the Federal Reserve Bank is a dream private central bank. Why? Because they have a reserve status currency. Every commodity in the world is priced in dollars. If you want to buy oil and you're in the Korean won, you have to convert those Korean wons to dollars and buy that oil. It is a beautiful scheme. If you're a private central banker, it's a dream. I'm going to repeat that. If you want to buy gold, you have to convert your Deutschmarks or your euros to dollars to buy gold. It's an incredible advantage. It's so incredible that it's a dream. All you have to do is not go too far into debt or do anything to screw it up with international relations. I'm going to go into that. But it is the dream of all. It's the magnum opus of private central banks. I won't go into who owns it and all that other kind of stuff because I'm not fully an expert on that, and there's a lot of different conspiracy theories, and my policy is the same as anyone. Peas in a pod don't have to conspire. It's generally two philosophies in banking, and you have to, in my opinion, you should understand them and how to make an argument to knock out the neocons over foreign policy. So when it comes down to the state, where does this argument come to a head? Historically, it's come to a head a lot more than most of us know. There's two famous modern instances of a state issuing true currency directly and doing extremely well, almost immediately. There was a case, this little white rabbit over there in Europe, his name was Adolf Hitler. Apparently he read a book by a man named Feder, F-E-D-E-R. Feder was a German economist, and he wrote a book. On how Germany could solve its debt problem after World War I. Germany had a huge, tremendous problem. They had a private central bank, and they had debt just exploded, and the currency went to heck in a handbasket and everything else. But his premise was the only thing Germany has to do is they have to do what the Americans did prior to the American Revolution, and do what Abraham Lincoln did during the Civil War, and they had very good luck with it, issue currency directly and not go with the private central bank. So Adolf Hitler, apparently, the story goes, he read this book by Feder, and when he got into power, he basically kicked out the private central bank. Yeah, he didn't have the private central bank at all. He didn't have Anglo-style banking at all. He issued currency directly. He issued those Reichsmarks. And the theory would go that he would come to full employment, just like they were doing back in the American colonies. The American colonies, prior to the American Revolution, issued currency directly. They issued currency as a receipt against goods or services. The greenback dollars that Abraham Lincoln had luck with, apparently he did very well with that to most economists. He was issuing currency, true currency. It's not private central bank. He's not getting money loaned to him by a private central bank. So Hitler read this, and the theory would go, if you did this, Germany, it would restore your unemployment. I mean, you would go to full employment pretty quickly, and you would restore Germany's prosperity, and then pay down a lot of whatever lingering debt you have out there. You'd pay down very quickly, simply because you're not going into a monetized debt system. Again, you're issuing true currency. You're not issuing a facsimile of currency, or what we will call money. You know, there's an old saying in Germany. The Germans used to say that, the Americans say we have all kinds of money. The Germans says, well, we're wealthier because we don't have any money. That was a saying in World War II. Well, they got rid of this monetized debt type of private central banking. And lo and behold, guess what it did? Germany came to full employment. The next thing you know, they paid off all their debts. They went into a barter scheme, and they did tremendously well overnight. Overnight, it was shock and awe economically. Of course, it probably had a lot to do with them being Germans too. But there's another modern case. There's another modern case going on right in front of our